If you are co-parenting with a narcissist and you feel like one wrong text, one emotional reaction, one imperfect handoff could be twisted and used against you, I want you to hear me clearly. There is a calm response you can train, and it doesn't just help you keep the peace. It protects your child, because the goal is not to win an argument with someone who plays by different rules. The goal is to stay solid enough that your child doesn't get pulled into the chaos and you don't lose your connection with them in the process. And before we go any further, if you're at that true tipping point and you can feel the urgency in your body, I want you to know that you don't have to figure this out alone. Book a strategy session with me. It's a focused, structured call where we get a deep understanding of what you and your child are facing right now, what's escalating, and what's actually driving the disconnect. And we can look at whether my proven step-by-step plan is the right fit for you. No pressure, just clarity and a path forward. And either way, stay with me because I want to give you something that you can use immediately. So let me ask you some high-stakes questions that might hit you right in the chest. What if the next exchange didn't have to ruin your entire day? What if the next accusation didn't send you spiraling into panic, over-explaining, or into rage? What if the next time your child comes back dysregulated, shut down, angry, clingy, or just different? You knew exactly what to do, step by step, without interrogating them or accidentally feeding the other parent's narrative. By the end of this video, you're going to have a structured, regulated response protocol that you can use in the moments that matter the most. After exchanges, when accusations show up, when your child is dysregulated, and when the other parent tries to provoke you into becoming the bad guy. And I'm going to anchor this in what actually happens in real life. Because when things intensify, such as school behavior changes, rising anxiety, your child pulling away, scary allegations, or that gut level feeling that we're losing them emotionally, you don't need more general advice. You need a plan that keeps the boundary intact without feeding the conflict. Let me give you a quick story that might feel painfully familiar. A dad I worked with, let's call him Alex, was saying and doing everything right. His tone was neutral. He didn't badmouth. He followed the schedule, but every exchange was a landmine. His co-parent would send messages like, "The school is concerned about you," or "Our child says that they're scared at your house," or "If you keep this up, I'll take legal action." And then the worst part, his child would come home and say things like, "You're always making this hard," or "Why can't you just be nice?" or "Nothing at all, just flat, distant, eyes down and gone." He told me, "I feel like I'm fighting for my kid with one hand tied behind my back, and the clock is ticking." And here's what changed everything. We stopped trying to respond correctly from panic, and we built a regulated response protocol that made him the safe base every single time. Not perfect, consistent. And within weeks, his child started re-engaging. More eye contact, more honest comments, more softness. And the other parent still had conflict, but the bond was protected. And that's what we're doing today. Take a breath and let's get into the protocol. And I want you to remember this whole time that your calm is not you being passive. Your calm is protection for your child. Step one is regulate first, because everything you say from panic becomes evidence. Let's talk about the moment. The moment a text comes in and your stomach drops. The moment you read one sentence and your brain starts spiraling. You can feel your heart rate jump. Your hands get cold. Your mind goes straight into, "I have to fix this. I have to defend myself. I have to respond right now." Pause on that. That urgency you feel, that's not intuition. That's activation. And with a narcissistic co-parent, activation is dangerous because everything you say from panic can turn into proof. Proof that you're unstable, proof that you're hostile, proof that you're difficult, even when you're just a scared parent trying to protect your child. So here's the rule I want you to live by. If your body is above a 7 out of 10, you do not respond yet. Not because you're avoiding it, but because you're leading, because you're protecting your bond with your child, because you're protecting your credibility, because you're protecting your child from seeing you pulled into chaos. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but if I don't respond quickly, they'll escalate. Maybe. But if I don't correct them right now, my child will believe it. I get it. Take a breath. The truth is, responding fast usually feeds the fire. So instead, we do one of the most powerful things you can do in a high conflict co-parenting situation. We buy you time. We buy time in a way that sounds calm, organized, and unimpeachable. So you might say, Got it. I'll review and respond tomorrow at 5. Or thanks, I'm not available to discuss this right now. I'll respond in writing after I review. Or I'll address the scheduled items only. Please send any proposed changes in writing. And if you're in person at an exchange and they try to corner you, you can say calmly, okay, I'm not discussing this at a handoff. That's it. Then you stop talking because every extra sentence becomes a doorway. Let me say it again. Every extra sentence becomes a doorway and they will walk right through it. So once you've bought the time, you regulate your body before you write anything else. I'm going to give you a 60-second reset. Do it with me. You want to unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders, exhale longer than you inhale, and put one hand on your chest if that helps. Now say it to yourself quietly like a mantra. This is bait. My child needs me steady. Again, this is bait. My child needs me steady. Because the goal is not to prove that you are right. The goal is to stay solid. So your child has at least one parent who feels safe to come home to. Let's pause on that. What would it feel like for you to open a message that used to ruin your entire day and instead you stayed grounded, not numb, not shut down, grounded, strategic, consistent? That's what we're building. And one more thing, this is important. Regulation isn't just for text messages. It's for your child. Because if your child walks in the door and they see your face tight, your voice clipped, your energy spinning, they may not know what's happened, but their nervous system will know something is wrong. So every time you regulate first, you're silently telling your child, you don't have to hold this. I got you. And listen, if this is the part where you're thinking, I can't regulate because the stakes feel too high and I don't trust myself not to react, that's exactly why I offer strategy sessions. Because you don't need the motivation. You need a personalized protocol. What to do when that text hits, what to do at the exchanges, what to document, what to ignore, what to address, and how to repair with your child after the storm. Book a strategy session and we'll get a deep understanding for what you and your child are facing and see if my step-by-step plan is the right fit for you. Okay, now step 2 is what to do once you've regulated enough to choose your response. You respond to what's needed. Don't respond to what's bait. This is where most good parents get pulled off center. You get a message and it's not just information. It's loaded. It's a tone. It's an accusation. It has that little punch in the gut that makes you want to defend yourself immediately. And if you're co-parenting with a narcissist, that punch is not an accident. It's bait. So here's the shift. You're going to respond to what's needed, and you're going to stop responding to what's bait, because bait is designed to pull you into emotion, argument, and over-explaining. And what's needed is almost always simple. It's child logistics. It's schedule. It's school. It's medical. It's an actual decision. Now, quick normalization before we go any further. Even if you answer perfectly, your body may still feel terrified. You may still shake. You may still spiral. You may still ruminate and replay it in your head for hours. That doesn't mean you failed. That means your nervous system has learned to expect danger. And in a minute, I'm going to show you what to do after you hit send so you can come back to center. Because the goal isn't just to have the right words. The goal is your stability. So when a message comes in, I want you to silently sort it into 2 buckets. Bucket 1 is bait. That's the blame, the character attack, the rewriting history, the dramatic threats. Bucket 2 is what's needed. The one line that actually requires a response so your child's life keeps moving. And you only respond to bucket 2. Let me say that again. You only respond to what's needed. You do not respond to the emotional charge, the accusation, or the story, because that is where they are actually trying to trap you. So let's make it real. If they text, you're always selfish, you never put the child first, I'm changing pickup to 7 because you're impossible, you respond, confirming pickup at 5 per the schedule. That's it. No defense. No, I'm not selfish. No, you always do this. Just a calm return to structure. And if they email you, the school is concerned about you, our child says you screamed at them, I'm worried about their safety, you respond, please send specific concerns in writing with dates and details. I'll follow up with the school tomorrow. Notice what you did. You didn't argue the accusation. You required specificity. You addressed the child-focused next step, and you stayed regulated. And if they say, if you don't agree to this, I'll take you back to court, you respond, noted, I'll communicate about child-related logistics in writing. Or even simpler, okay, Please keep communications to child logistics. Short, boring, unhookable. Now, I want to validate the fear that comes up here. A lot of parents think if I don't defend myself, it looks like I'm guilty. Take a breath. In high conflict dynamics, the parent who stays calm, brief, and child-focused doesn't look guilty. They look credible. And your child, and this is the part that matters, your child feels the difference because they're not watching you get pulled into a storm. They're experiencing you as steady. And that steadiness becomes the safe base that protects the bond. So here's your simple internal script when you feel pulled to defend. That's bait. What is actually needed here? Then you answer what's needed and you stop. And now, let me name the part nobody says out loud. A lot of parents can do the right response on the surface. You can send the calm text, you can keep it brief, you can stick to logistics, and then you hit send and your body is still in full emergency mode. Your mind starts spinning. Did I say it wrong? What if they twist it? What if they show it to the judge? What if my child believes them? And you start rereading the messages. If that's you, I want you to hear me. That doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. That means your nervous system has been trained by repeated conflict to expect danger. So we're not just changing your wording, we're retraining your body. Because the real win isn't just I sent the right text. The real win is I come back to center after I send it. So here's what you need to do after you respond. This is the part that stops the spiral. First, you physically end the interaction. You put your phone face down, or you close your laptop, not as a motivational tactic, as a signal to your nervous system. The threat is not in the room. Second, you name what's happening in one sentence. My body is activated. Not I'm in danger. Not everything is falling apart. Just my body is activated. That one line is powerful because it separates feelings from facts. Third, you give your body a discharge because rumination is often trapped adrenaline. So do something physical for 2 minutes. Walk to the mailbox. Do 10 slow squats. Shake out your hands. Stand at the sink and run cold water over your wrists. Something that tells your body, we're moving, we're safe enough to move. And fourth, you anchor back to your actual mission. You say, out loud if you can, my job is stability. This is what protects my child. I don't have to respond to their bait. I have to be a safe base in my reality. Let's pause on that because this is where you start winning in a way that actually changes your child's life, not by controlling the other parent, but by staying present in your own home. Now, one more thing. If you find yourself wanting to reopen the conversation, send another text, clarify, or add one more sentence, that's usually not logic. That's anxiety trying to get relief. So make a rule for yourself. One response, then you wait. And if it's truly child-related and truly necessary, you can address it at your next set time. But you don't let their chaos set your heartbeat for the day. Now, let's move on to step 3, which is you build a safe base conversation with your child without putting them in the middle. This is the part that matters the most. Your child. Because the biggest fear that you have in this is that what if my child starts believing them? What if my child is pulled away from me? What if my child feels like loving me is dangerous? And I want you to hold something gently. You cannot control what the other parent says, but you can control what your home feels like. You can control what your child experiences with you, and that becomes the antidote. So after exchanges, especially when your child comes in hot or cold or hollow, your job is not to interrogate. Not, what did they say about me? Not, are you okay? Tell me about it. Or did they talk about the court again? Because even if your intention is love, your child's nervous system hears pressure. And if your child is already dysregulated, pressure makes them protect the other parent, shut down, or flip into loyalty conflict. So instead, you run a simple, safe base sequence. You connect, you confirm, and you offer. Connect. Hey, I'm really glad that you're here. Confirm what you're observing without assigning blame. You seem a little wound up today, or you're really quiet. That tells me that you might have had a big day. And then you offer safety and choice. You don't have to talk about anything right now. I'm here. Do you want a snack, a bath, or some quiet time? Let's pause on that. When you do this, you're teaching your child something profound. My body is allowed to feel what it feels, and I don't have to manage adult emotions. That's how you protect them without saying a word about the other parent. Then, later, when the child is settled, you can create space for discernment without making them feel like they're testifying to anything. You can say, Sometimes people say different things in different houses. If something ever feels confusing or heavy, you can always tell me, and you won't get in trouble. That last line, and you won't get in trouble, when you follow through with it, this is how you counter fear-based loyalty. Now, let me talk about one more thing parents miss: repair. Because you will mess up sometimes. You will snap, you will be stressed, you will have bad days, and you will say things like, I can't do this, under your breath. You're human. So the goal is not perfection, it's repair. A repair script can be as simple as, hey, earlier I sounded sharp or snappy. That wasn't your fault. I'm working on staying calm and you're safe with me. And then you move on. No long confessions, no oversharing about the other parent. Just, I own my tone. You're not responsible. We're okay. That's how you become the safe base again. What would it feel like for your child to experience you as the parent who could always come back to connection, even after a hard moment? This builds security, and security is what resists the manipulation. And finally, step 4, you create a 2-lane system, a conflict lane versus a child lane. So your child doesn't become the battleground. This step is where things start to feel calmer in your body, because right now you're at a tipping point. You probably feel like everything is blended together. A school email triggers a co-parent conflict. A co-parent conflict spills into your mood. Your mood spills into how you talk to your child. Your child reacts. And then you panic that you're losing them. And then you overfunction. And then you crash. And the cycle is brutal. So we separate your life into 2 lanes, the conflict lane and the child lane. The conflict lane is where you do the necessary adult tasks: documentation, neutral responses, schedule confirmations, score coordination, legal steps if needed. And here's the key: you do the conflict lane tasks at a set time, not all day. So maybe it's 12:30 to 12:45. Maybe it's 8 to 8:20 after the kids are in bed. But it's contained, because narcissistic conflict is designed to become your full-time job, and you're done letting it. Then there's the child lane. The child lane is sacred. In the child lane, you are not monitoring for damage. You are not scanning your child for signs that they're being turned against you. You're not asking subtle questions to see what the other parent said. You are building a relationship. You're making pancakes. You're doing homework. You're playing music in the kitchen. You're taking a walk together. You're doing bedtime routines. You're being the safe base. And this separation matters, because your child can feel when you're not fully with them, even if you're physically there. They can feel when you're elsewhere mentally, wrestling the other parent. So here's a phrase I want you to use when your brain tries to drag conflict into the child lane. Not here, not now. This is the child lane. And you return. And if you need support, you take it to your journal or your therapist or your coach, your adult support system, not your child. This is how you prevent emotional drift, because kids don't usually drift away from a parent who feels emotionally safe to be around. They drift away from tension. They drift away from pressure. They drift away from the feeling that love has a cost, and you're removing that cost. Now, I want to close with something steady. If you're co-parenting with a narcissist, you can start to feel like you're always one step behind. You're always reacting. You're always bracing, always cleaning up the emotional debris. But here's the shift. You're not just responding. You're building a pattern that your child can rely on. You're becoming predictable in the healthiest way. And when a child has at least one parent like that, one safe base, discernment grows, resilience grows, and the bond holds, even if the other parent never changes. If you've been feeling like time is running out, I want you to hear this. Consistency works faster than you think. Not overnight, but faster than you think. If you're at that tipping point and you can feel it, where you're having trouble staying regulated, the messages are escalating, and your child is starting to get pulled into the tension, maybe they're coming home more anxious, more shut down, more reactive, or you can just feel the emotional distance growing and you don't want to keep guessing, book a strategy session and let's steady the ground under you and your child.